Hi everyone. Hi Ishaku. Thank you for joining. Thank you Mubarak. Hi Muhammad. Good. So I am giving some little more time before I start, just so that more people can join and then we can take off from there. The questions are still coming in, and I don't want to miss any, so I'll be checking my phone for the messages. Thank you, Sonny. Hi, Uwem. Hi, Bakir. Jazakallah. Hi, Zaradin, Ojile, Hussein, Muhammad Salim, Muhammad Adamu Kumo. Hello to all of you. Yeah, I'm just waiting for a few more people to join before I start off, but I just noticed something. The Facebook Live is bearing the name of my previous live session, and that might not be a good guide to people who are going to be joining this page for the first time. So maybe I might just be starting all over another session with the correct title so that people don't miss out. Okay. Fantastic. Yep. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think I've corrected that. So I guess I have corrected the title of the live session. It's now showing Master Scholarships Q&A. Just giving it another 1 minute so that we go into the session properly at 10:10. Thank you, Bapare Mohammed. Thank you. Is it Isaiah or Ishaya? Chukudi Samuel. Thank you for joining. It's not actually been lenient with latecomers. Maybe it's one of the, sometimes it's easy to pick up traditions. Maybe this is one of the traditions I have picked up from school here. Our classes would usually start at the top of the hour, but lecturers would usually be in the class before that time, and even when they're around, even when everyone is around, they usually wouldn't start until 10 minutes past time. So maybe that's what I'm trying to emulate. Okay, so it's 10:10. I think we can start now. Yeah. So hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining from. I hope you are having, a joyful weekend. So my name is Mustafa Said. I am a recent graduate of MSc Africa and International Development at the University of Edinburgh in the United Kingdom. I was a member of the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program at the University of Edinburgh. That was the program that awarded me the scholarship to study for my master's at the University of Edinburgh. I am also a member of the Abuja Hub of the Global Shapers Community, an initiative of the World Economic Forum. I am also a member of the Mo Ibrahim Foundation's Now Generation Network. Prior to coming to the UK for my master's, I used to work as a researcher at the Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa in Nigeria, where I was involved in research on economic policy issues in African countries. Prior to that, I had a brief banking stint in Islamic non-interest banking. But even before joining that sector, I used to work as a field officer for a rural poverty alleviation program in Gombe State in Nigeria. I have also volunteered as a teacher at a secondary school in Abuja, Nigeria, while I was doing my mandatory national service, also known as NYSC in Nigeria. I was also a sustainable development goals facilitator within Abuja while I was doing my mandatory national service. I have also organized campaigns on youth inclusive governance for development in Nigeria for the Youth Initiative for Advocacy, Growth and Advancement, Yaga Africa in Nigeria. So that is pretty much what I have been doing before I got the scholarship to study for my master's at the University of Edinburgh. So my scholarship journey actually can be described by several applications that I have submitted to different scholarship bodies, but of course, most of my scholarship applications were targeted at universities in the United Kingdom, with just a few targeted at other countries. My scholarship was the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, like I said in the beginning. That was a scholarship that I benefited from. And that would lead us to a question that almost everyone would be asking. what is this Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program? Well, the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program gives opportunity for higher education to young people in Africa with leadership potentials who have shown academic interest that have exceeded their financial capabilities to afford studying for higher education. The Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program was launched in 2012 by the Mastercard Foundation, which is the global corporate social responsibility section of the Mastercard company, the financial technology and payment company Mastercard. So they set up a separate entity called the Mastercard Foundation, which was to take all the corporate social responsibility of the company globally under its own entity. So that is the Mastercard Foundation, and the program, like I said, was launched about 10 years ago. The 10th year anniversary celebration was done a few months ago in 2022 in Kigali, Rwanda. And the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program is administered through a host of partners of the Mastercard Foundation, and they are located across the world. Some are in North America, Europe, and some are in Africa. The one that I benefited from is the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program at the University of Edinburgh, which is, of course, one of the programs that are being administered in Europe, here in the United Kingdom. But here in the UK, at the moment, we have the University of Edinburgh as a partner of Mastercard Foundation, and very recently, 2 new partners have been added to administer the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship Program in the UK, and they are the University of Oxford and the University of Cambridge. So how did I get selected for the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program? Well, I got the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program through a very, very interesting experience, and it started from the news of the scholarship being awarded to a young man in northeast Nigeria named Imran Alej-Buba, who won the scholarship in 2018, I think, and a friend of mine heard about it, and because he knew that I was already applying to scholarships then, told me that he has gone through the scholarship website, he has gone through the profile of the person that got selected for the program, and he felt like I was going to be suitable for the scholarship, so he nudged me to apply. And when it was application time, of course, because I had already been applying to scholarships elsewhere, I drafted an application because, of course, as a scholarship applicant, you usually have a vision under which you're applying for your scholarship. So even if you're applying to different scholarships, it will be the same message that you're trying to get across, although you'll make a few changes to your application, but usually you would have the same message that you're always communicating, because consistency is key. So I drafted the application and then handed it to 2 people to review my application. One of them was my scholarship mentor. He has a scholarship mentorship platform already where he mentors students from Nigeria to get scholarships for masters and PhDs abroad. His name is Dr. Kenechukwu. He is currently a research scientist at the manufacturing company Procter & Gamble. I also gave my essay to my supervisor at work then, because I was working as a field officer for the poverty alleviation program, and one of my supervisors then was someone who had just finished from the University of Oxford. So I thought those 2 people had some experience on going to those schools and applying to postgraduate studies. So I gave them my essays, which they reviewed and got back to me with some changes that I should make to my applications, which I did. I made those changes, submitted my application a few hours to the deadline. The deadline was coming very close. I would advise scholarship applicants to not do that. I only did that out of maybe pressure of deadlines, because I had a lot of things doing then. So I could only manage my time that way, but I was still able to submit my application. So a few weeks later, I received an email telling me that some information was missing, that I needed to resubmit some information as part of my application for the Scholars Program at Edinburgh University, which I did. And a few months later, I think it was in February 2021, because the application was made in either, I think, September or October 2021. That was when I submitted the application. So by February 2021, I received an email telling me that I was shortlisted for interview via Zoom. So of course, I did a lot of research while I was writing the essay to apply for the scholarship. But I believe that within that period of time, a lot of things might have changed, and I was becoming even more peculiar as a candidate applying for the scholarship. So I went back and did more research in case there were latest initiatives of the foundation that I needed to talk about and link with my application. I did a lot of my research on YouTube. Then I remember watching a lot of videos of Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program at other partner universities, not just the University of Edinburgh. I had scheduled my interview, I think, was it on 16th of March, because the interview invitation I received was telling me to choose a date for my interview, because they would usually give you some flexibility to choose when you are going to be available for the interview. So I chose, but I had to change it because of a few circumstances, and I did it sometime within the last 10 days of March. And after doing the research, did a lot of mock interviews with some people who had been selected for the scholarship before, and it was time for my interview, and I did it. So by 9th of April 2021, I think it was a Friday, either 9th, I think it was 9th of April. I was supervising some candidates who were applying for some positions at my workplace, and it was almost getting done. So we were already wrapping up, and I was on a call with a friend. Then I received, so just after the call, I just dropped the call, and I saw an email from the Mastercard Foundation telling me that I was conditionally selected for the scholarship. And there were a couple of instructions for me to follow, send some documents until the conditions on my offer were lifted. Then we kept on exchanging correspondences, telling me procedure to follow until it was time for me to apply for visa. And I eventually, got my visa. In fact, I got my visa way before the time for me to travel, and I kept it. And then a few more weeks later, almost a month later, I received my flight ticket, and then 6 September I left Nigeria and came to the United Kingdom to start my master's. So this is a very, very short or summarized story of how I got selected for the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program. Now, without further ado, I would quickly just delve into the questions that I've received via my DMs, because remember, I told people that were going to join to send their questions via DM, so that when we get started, we just start answering them. And even if the people are unable to join the live session, they would be able to come and see their questions being answered. So I'm going to start with a question from Sonny Ajine, who is asking me what exactly is the key selection criteria for the MCF scholarship. Well, the key selection criteria are the ones listed on the scholarship website. So if you want to, those criteria that you saw on the scholarship website are the requirements that you have to meet for you to be able to apply for the scholarship. That is for you to be able to apply for the scholarship. But for you to get selected, that is now another question, because it becomes a competition then. Everyone can be eligible, but not everyone gets selected. During my time, almost 4,000, not up to 4,000, but almost a few, there were just a few people, a lot of 3,900 plus, I think. That was what I learned. And that was the number of people who applied for the scholarship, and only 21 to 22 of us got shortlisted for the scholarship. We are the ones that eventually came to the UK to take the scholarship and study for our masters. So that is how competitive it can get. So, but the borderline is that you have to be a young person, typically 35 or younger, from a sub-Saharan African country, from probably a less privileged background. So for example, you have to be able to demonstrate to the Mastercard Foundation that you will not be able to independently pay your school fees at the University of Edinburgh. And then you also have to have demonstrated some leadership potential, track record of leadership potential and community service in your country. So when they say leadership, it doesn't mean leadership in the way we think. It doesn't mean the conservative ways of thinking about leadership. It's not the leadership of title. It's leadership of problem solving. You could be working perhaps in an organization, but you help to solve a lot of problems. You could be in your community. You probably don't even have a paid job, but you are doing a lot to your community. You might not even be doing something to your immediate community, but you might be doing something virtually online. You might be helping people online. A lot of people have built communities online where they are, giving a lot of support and help to their communities. So that is the kind of people that get selected for the program. You have to be up and doing. Essentially, that's what I'm saying. So those are some of the criteria, and you have to be able to demonstrate those in your application essay. They ask you some questions. So by answering those questions, you then chip in those things that make you exceptional. Isa Ibrahim is asking that he's still an undergraduate, whether he would be able to apply for the scholarship. Well, the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program at the University of Edinburgh at the moment is for people undergoing, for people who want to do a master's in the UK. Of course, we have undergraduate scholars, but I think applications for the undergraduate scholarship is not something I am very, very familiar with. Although what I know is that for you to get the undergraduate scholarship, there is a lot of priority given to academic excellence, but of course with some demonstration of community service as well. So just like the masters, of course, you have to have developed a track record of excellence, academic excellence, and also some community service and leadership experience for you to be able to get the undergraduate scholarship. Although the recruitment process for the undergraduate scholarship, like I said, is not something I'm familiar with, but of course you can do your research online and you'd be able to find out about the undergraduate scholarship. But for the postgraduate scholarship, you wouldn't be able to apply because you are still in 200 level. Only people who there is a particular date by which you should have finished your undergraduate studies before you can apply for the master's program, and it's also there on the scholarship website. So you might want to go and check, but I don't think you'd be able to meet that date as someone who is in 200 level. So Faisal Ahmad Suleiman is asking whether someone with a second class lower can apply for the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship. At the University of Edinburgh, someone with a 2-2 cannot apply for the scholarship, sadly. You have to have a minimum of 2-1 to be able to apply for the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship at the University of Edinburgh. In fact, for the University of Edinburgh, before you apply for the scholarship, you have to pass through an eligibility test. So you fill in some information which they use to access your eligibility for the scholarship. And one of the eligibility criteria they look at that particular moment is your academic record. Your academic record has to meet either 60%, depending on the grading system used in your university. You have to have achieved 60% of overall mark, or have achieved a minimum of what is equivalent to a UK 2-1 or second class upper in Nigeria, because the University of Edinburgh is one of the highly ranking universities both within the UK and globally. So their recruitment process is usually targeted at students with good academic record. Yeah, and that is what they are looking out for. And one of the terms of the Mastercard Foundation and the University of Edinburgh is that the University of Edinburgh was going to remove every form of restriction that would allow every sort of restriction that would prevent young people who have met the criteria of academic excellence, leadership potential, underprivileged family background from studying at the University of Edinburgh. So once you meet those criteria, you are allowed to apply. But if you haven't met the criteria, of course you cannot, because you'll not be able to get offered a place at the university, and as such you can't apply. Because for some of you that would eventually get selected for the scholarship, you would come to the University of Edinburgh and you would see you would see the academic rigor in this university, and that is why they want to make sure that they are taking students who can actually go through the process. It's a very, very academically stimulating process that you have to have shown some track record of academic performance for you to be accepted into the program. Usman on Twitter sent me a message asking how we could overcome the difficulties of getting our transcript from universities in Nigeria, that most of institutions in the United States would ask applicants to send transcript. Meanwhile, getting it sent by universities in Nigeria here take forever sometimes. Is there any ruling that prohibit issuance of transcript to the owner? I am not sure what the legislation is, but I know that, yeah, getting your transcript could be a very, very difficult thing. However, one thing about universities in the UK and the US and elsewhere in the developed world is that they are very, very open-minded and flexible with their recruitment process. At the end of the day, it doesn't stop them from fishing the right students that they should take most of the time. They try to focus on the issue, right? They try to focus on the issue and try to not allow bureaucracy to get in the way of getting the best students to come here to study. So even in Nigeria, what happens is that I know some universities that at the end of semesters, level coordinators would come and tell you that they have some result sheets of your previous performance in the last semester. So it's usually a result sheet that is not official, but that is given to students. Some universities would even charge some amount for you to get that, and some would have it on their website for you to download and see, so that you'd keep track of the courses that you've taken, the grades you've gotten. If you have some courses that you failed, you would know. So that is like probably the best way of making sure that students have official records of their academic standing in the university. So they give that at the end of every semester. What you should do is that, as an ideal student who wants to apply for scholarship, is that each time they give you that result slip of your performance in the semester, collect it and keep. If your course is a 4-year course, by the time you are finishing your program, you would have received 8 of them. What you do, although because that is not an official transcript in a way, what you do is to tell the university that you are applying to that, hello, be polite about it. They love people to ask questions. There are people who have been employed particularly to be answering questions from students who are prospective students who want to apply to those universities. Tell them that I want to apply for this master's program at your university, but my university does not give us our official transcript. What I have here is an academic record of the courses I have taken and the grades I have obtained. Can I use this? Can you look at this to measure my academic performance? Most times, almost all the universities I have reached out to would say yes. And that is what I will give them to access my application. Now, there is one other thing. I'm not sure if that is allowed, but you can also ask them. If you don't, say for example, you don't have that student record, that report sheet that your level coordinator gives you. Say you don't have it. Ask the university. Tell them that your university does not in any way give you your transcript or your academic record, but can you send them an unofficial statement of the courses you've taken and the grades you've obtained? Because some serious students, every semester that the result has been released, they would usually go, I did that, right? I was quite a keen student while I was doing my undergrad. So I would usually go and I would take notes of the courses I have taken, take the course codes, and I would copy the grades as well. Because even though my dad didn't require that, I just thought that I should be sharing my academic performance with my dad, as somebody who was in the beginning of my studies at undergrad, was being sponsored by my dad, although I later got a scholarship for my undergraduate studies. But even after I got the scholarships, I still decided that, because while I was entering my biodata with my university where I had my undergraduate studies, my sponsor, those times I entered my parents, of course, and my sponsor. So as much as I was sending my result slip to my scholarship to my sponsor then, the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria, I was also always sharing my academic performance with my parents. So yeah, you can ask them if you can give them that note, of course, but you'd want to go into maybe Microsoft Word, put the course, put the grade, because those were your grades, you got them, right? So you are not lying. It's not like there was a course that you got F and you go and put B. No, it's the same course, and you have to ask them, you have to notify. What they deal with here is that every information has to be revealed in advance, right? You can't manipulate. Don't manipulate. Always say it that, look, this result is a result that I have been taking record of by myself. Can you use it? Because at the end of the day, they are just trying to like gauge your performance. By the time you get a place to come and study here, most times, of course, because if you do that, then they might say that, okay, we'll consider you, but will not allow you to start studying until you get the official transcript. By that time, you have more confidence to approach your department, approach the university, and tell them that you've gotten the scholarship, you want your transcript sent to that school. By that time, you are willing to spend even more. You can even, help them to post it via all these private courier services. That is what I mean, because I remember even when I was sending my result to the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria, then I would usually pay for official courier. I don't want to mention their names here so that I'm not advertising, but those ones would help me to send it in good time. So I hope that Usman, your question has been answered. Yeah, you talked about legislation, right? Is there any ruling that prohibit issuance of transcript to the owner? Well, I don't know. Perhaps because my master's, of course, international development, we always think about how something can be improved. The moment you tell us about anything, we would usually just start thinking of course, like all these things perhaps could be man-made. So like, why don't we change the legislation? Even if there is a legislation or there isn't any legislation, it's not bad if, for example, if you have the phone number of the member of House of Reps of your constituency, or the Senate, or member of Senate or Assembly, or if you meet politicians, these days you see a lot of people posting their pictures with politicians. If you meet them, tell them that I am an undergraduate student, this is what we are doing. Universities in Nigeria don't give us our transcript. Can you please make a legislation that mandates them to give us this transcript? Of course, you can follow up with laws that penalizes students who end up falsifying documents or whatnot. But my academic performance is mine, right? So you should always be able to provide it when I need to use it in order to facilitate my personal development as young people, especially in Nigeria. So these are some of the things that you should tell politicians when you meet them, that these are some of the legislations that we want to be passed in higher education. So even if there is no law that prohibits that, why not have a law that makes it mandatory to even produce that? After securing a scholarship, Usman goes on to ask, will a delay on visa issuance affect your scholarship? How can someone make a proper preparation to avoid such visa issuance as they might affect his or her start date? That is one thing I love about the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program at the University of Edinburgh. Based on what we know in my cohort and previous cohorts and what I have learned over time while I was doing my master's under the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, is that they've hardly had such issues. Because remember, my master's was going to start in September 2021, but applications for the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program at the University of Edinburgh had opened, I think, in September or October 2020. And by second week of April 2021, I had already been offered a scholarship. So between 9th of April to 6th September, when I arrived in the UK, that was the time that the scholars program and myself used in order to prepare my arrival in the UK, from applying for admission to getting visa to sorting out every document that I needed to come to study at the University of Edinburgh was done within that interval period. So usually for the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, you are unlikely to face that kind of problem, because, and for my own case, it was even faster because I already had an international passport. You don't require a passport to apply for the scholarship. for the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship, you don't require a passport. But I already had a passport, which meant that by the time I got the scholarship, if the passport was going to be the thing delaying me, I already have the passport. So I got started right away. But I have my colleagues who was at the time, they don't have passports or had their passports expired. They got to renew it and got their visas, and we arrived in the UK on the same date, on the same day, on the same plane. Right? So you can hardly have those problems. But on other scholarships or on other opportunities, you can come to the UK or travel to a country abroad, you might have those problems. So I would want to say that perhaps one of the things you can do to avoid that is I am usually careful to not say that so that I don't put people under unnecessary pressure, to be honest. But maybe having your passport early would help. Have your passport early, and when you are doing your passport, make sure that you pay attention to your name. And I know why I'm talking about this, especially for some of us. I don't know, but we often have this problem of name issues. Either the spelling is different, or maybe some characters have been introduced. Personally, I have gone through that, but I was always aware, so I would usually foresee the problem happening, and I would usually just do what I can to make sure that documents are in place before those applications. But make sure that the passport is bearing the same name you have on, for example, your undergraduate degree certificate, date of birth. Make sure that you are using a consistent date of birth all through, because the question is asking me what you can do to avoid those visa issues and delay. Well, those are some of the things, and those are some of the things that people usually fall victim of. Avoid doing that. Of course, one shouldn't, even in the first place, age shouldn't be changed. So it should always be consistent. I mean, why should a date change? Date of birth doesn't change, right? Name spelling, also be careful with it. Make sure that all your documents are consistent wherever you go to, and they're taking your name. What I used to do is to give them my ID card. Yeah, they would usually feel somehow, but at the end of the day, it's about me. I'm the one that is going to be stranded one day if you don't pay attention to details of my name. So I'd usually pass my ID card and say, Said is my surname, Mustafa is my name, and this is how I spell my name. So all those things are some of the things that you might want to do. And maybe also English tests. Like I said, I am always being careful to not put people under unnecessary pressure to acquire these things, because they are hardly used to access your application. They are only used in order to remove conditions of your admission. But if you have an English test already with a high score, with the required score of that university, then all those things would make it faster and quicker for you to get your visa. So yeah, you might want to acquire all those. I remember during my time, like I said, I had the passport already because I was already an experienced scholarship applicant. I had been applying for scholarships. Even that IELTS, I had taken IELTS in February 2018. And by February 2020, because it lasts for just 2 years, it's like JAM in Nigeria, it had expired by February 2020, and I only got my scholarship in April 2021. So even though the University of Edinburgh would require you to prove your English language proficiency to remove the condition on your admission, but you still need to, if you have the English test, you can give them, and then you wouldn't have to pass through the process that we followed. Because for us, while I had the English test valid, but it had expired. So the University of Edinburgh, with the support of the Mastercard, with financial support from Mastercard Foundation, would organize an English test for you who have been selected for the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program. They test your English ability. You are in terms of writing, reading, speaking, and listening. And none of us failed that exams. All of us passed, and the conditions on our admission was removed. So we started our registration properly. Even while I was in Nigeria, I already had my student number. I had a student email. I had access to information resource at the university. So that's how fast it can get. And it was the same for almost all of us who didn't even have some of the documents. Because if you don't have a passport, the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program would send you money to go and acquire a passport in Nigeria. Yeah, the next question is from Muhammad Amin Jibrin. He said, one asked that they said he was going through the website and they said one has to apply to the university before applying for the scholarship. So So he did and became confused when reaching to the finance level. Well, so what they mean here is that, University of Edinburgh is a public university like every other university in the United Kingdom. So it's not like everyone you see studying at the University of Edinburgh is on scholarship. There are students who are self-funded. There are students who have taken student loans to study. There are students on other scholarships other than the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program. And their recruitment and admission process for those scholarships might be different. For example, personally, I secured admission almost 6 to 7 times in different UK master's programs across universities before I eventually got the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship. I had admissions already. So I was following the regular process of people who would have otherwise paid for their admission. Paid for their studies by themselves, because some scholarships that I've applied to in the past, like the Chevening Scholarship and the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, would ask you to go through the normal process of applying to the university, submitting your personal statement, submitting your transcript, passport details. Sometimes some universities would ask you to submit your NICO or WAEC in order to prove your English language proficiency. You do all those. I did that with the University of Sussex. So you do all those things, and you would usually be offered a conditional or unconditional admission to study at those universities. So for Commonwealth and Chevening, like I said, you start the process as if you had the money, as if you have the 30,000 or 40,000 pounds to pay. But when it is time for them to start asking you for money, you'll tell them that, hi, I am actually, in fact, sometimes even in the application form, they will ask you, why do you expect your funding to come from? But if they don't, even if they do, you still send them an email telling them, hi, now that you've given me the admission, I'm actually applying in anticipation for the Chevening Scholarship or for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. And then you go on accordingly, telling them what, because the scholarships will tell you what you should tell the university so that they will take it up from there. Because the universities are so experienced in taking scholarship students, they usually have a way of arranging it. Once you tell them, they will say, okay, the communication will then start between them and your scholarship body. But for the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship, is different, because you start applying for the scholarship before you apply for admission, because admission and scholarship are two different things. Sometimes they can be lumped up in one thing, but they are usually different. And it's very, very important for you to know that they are two different things. So for the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, the link I posted on my page on 16 December will take you to where you can apply for this, read about the scholarship and apply for the scholarship. You submit essays, submit all the necessary documentation, and wait for interview. If you get interviewed and you get the scholarship, they will tell you that you've been given the scholarship, which means that we have agreed to pay your school fees. Remember, they would have some courses that they would have told you to choose from. And in your application, in your essays, you've already applied, you've already identified the course, and you've already tailored your essays and your application to those courses. So once you get the scholarship, of course, even the interview is going to revolve around the course that you've already identified in your essays. So, of course, you go and start. They will now send you a special link for Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program. They will now send you a special link, I think, that you would then follow, submit the necessary documentation. I remember during our time we had to submit another round of personal statement, but it was not too difficult to do because I've already made a case. I've already written that motivation in my scholarship essay. So all I needed to do was to get some of the things I said in my scholarship essay, to add a few other things tailored at the particular program, to now say that this is why I want you to give me a place to study MSc African International Development. Because, for example, I will tell them that I've worked as a researcher for the Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa. I have learned about policy making in Africa and research in Africa. So this would make me, those things are some of the things that you say in your personal statement. And I got the admission very quickly. It didn't take too long, and I got the admission, conditional offer of admission. And the condition on the offer of admission was that I produced a certificate, not statement of results, for my degree, and satisfy the English language requirement. So traveled down, got my certificate, came back, posted it, and then they fixed a date for me to take my English test, which I did, and I believe I have passed, because after taking the test and submitting my certificate, what I saw was that the condition on my offer was lifted, and then that led to the next stage of the scholarship process. So So yeah, that is what it means essentially, right? That if you're applying to the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, don't go and start applying for MSc African International Development, for example, just because Mastercard said they are going to give scholarship to people studying African International Development or food security or data inequality and society, right? Just go and start applying for the scholarship. But there are situations where you can start applying for the admission and applying for the scholarship. For example, somebody who's applying for a Chevening scholarship to study MSc African International Development at the University of Edinburgh, and is also applying for the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program at the University of Edinburgh, would in this case apply for the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship and still go back to the University of Edinburgh website to apply for his MSc African International Development, because the Chevening scholarship is different from Mastercard Foundation, and the process of Chevening requires you to apply for admission separately and then go to Chevening website also and apply for scholarship. So that is how it works. I hope I've been able to answer your question, Mohammed. I mean, Abraham asks about transcript. Can he apply for scholarship without transcript? For the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, send them an email. I believe they would be able to allow you to apply for the scholarship now without the transcript. But if you eventually get selected for the scholarship, I believe you have to present the transcript. You have to present it. For now, what you probably just need to do is to show that you finish with a 2-1. But by the time you get the scholarship, you have to. But send them an email. Remember, when I posted the scholarship news, I gave an email that if you have specific inquiries that are peculiar to you, send an email to them. They would always respond to you. Okay? Send them an email. Because that is one thing that you need to know, scholarship applicants. I can't overemphasize this. As a scholarship applicant, you have to learn to read. Read everything. Only ask questions that you can't find elsewhere. Read everything and pay attention to detail. If you have questions that are genuine, sometimes just send the email to the person that is awarding the scholarship, or the organization that is giving the scholarship. They provide the best answers. All I can share with you is my experience. Suleiman Melitaf is asking that as a science student, would he be able to get a scholarship to study journalism? Yes, it is possible. It is possible, although the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program does not give scholarships in the field of journalism, but it is possible, especially in the United Kingdom and other universities in Europe and North America. You can do it because for them it's about experience, it's about passion. Once you are able to prove that you are passionate about something and you have some promise to develop skill in that area, they always want to give you that chance to do something different in your life. So yes, you can do it. For example, I know someone who studied food technology during their bachelor's degree at the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. And they went on to study media and development for social change, or media and development. Basically, what they studied was a journalism course for their masters under the Chevening scholarship in the United Kingdom. I know them. I know the person. But of course, it's not like they did food technology just like that, and then they went on to apply for Chevening scholarship and study media and development for social change. Even while they were in school studying food technology, they were working for, I think, Campus, is it Union of Campus or Campus of Union Journalists? It's a popular student organization in conventional universities in Nigeria. So they've worked for that, and they've also been practicing journalism. Yeah, so that was what they used to pivot to journalism, to make a case that, look, I am very passionate about journalism, although I studied food technology, but this is what I've been doing in school, and this is what I'm currently doing. I want the scholarship in journalism because not only do I believe that I want to do journalism, but I believe that I can become a leader in journalism. So yeah, and they got it. So yeah, it's possible, but you have to be clear about what you want. You have to start developing the profile for journalism. A lot of popular journalists in Nigeria that I know, journalists in Nigeria and elsewhere in the world, did not necessarily study journalism. Although some of them would have studied relevant social science disciplines, but some of them would have studied something entirely different from journalism, and they are practicing journalism and they are doing very, very well. So I don't think that would be a problem. But you have to demonstrate the passion. how and when, to be precise, are scholarship opportunities announced? Scholarship opportunities mostly announced. So scholarship opportunities in the United Kingdom mostly, so for a course that is starting in September, and most UK universities start their programs in September. I want you to know that. Session starts in September, and I think even in Nigeria officially, take away the strikes, all things being equal, school calendar in Nigeria starts between September and October in universities, except that strikes and several other factors have come to disrupt our calendar, but that is how we also do it in Nigeria. But in the UK, it's a standard for quite a lot of, a very long time. They start in September usually, although some programs would start in January. But usually it would not be the it's not like the most substantial part of the program. That it's usually like the class B or the second class that would start in January, but usually standard, most universities would start in September. So for a program that starts in September 2023, applications would usually open between September and December. The most popular scholarships that bring students to come and study in the UK, the scholarships that bring one of the highest number of students to study in the UK, Chevening and Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, they open their application between August and December. Except because of the disruption brought by COVID, I know that Chevening usually open their application in August and they close it within the first week of November. So for example, for a program that starts in September 2023, Chevening would have opened the scholarship application in August 2022 and have closed it in November 2022. Commonwealth Shared, usually they would open it in November and close it in December. That is for program starting the following year. They open it in the fall of the previous year or the preceding year. That is what they do. So that is around the time that scholarships open. But due to some reasons, sometimes scholarships would not open around those times. But that is how it usually happens. During my time, when things were going okay, my application for the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, oh my God, I can't believe that I can't remember the particular month, but it was either September or October that we submitted the application. So that is when you should be start looking out for scholarships. As a scholarship applicant, from January to June, July, you are already writing your notes, thinking about the experiences you've recorded, your leadership experiences, your work experiences, consultancy, voluntary work, getting your transcript, doing your passport, putting those things together, so that once it is August, that is when you start looking out. Have a profile on social media, Twitter and LinkedIn. That is where most of these scholarships launch their PR campaigns. That is where they advertise scholarships. Be there. And the timelines of those social media also have a way of making sure that scholarship news is what is brought to your timeline. And you'll be able to see through the comments, you'll get to know whether the scholarships are genuine or not. So yeah, that is around the time, the fall of the year, from August to December. That is when usually scholarships would be announcing call for application. So be on the lookout that time. Can we differentiate between genuine platforms and scammers? Exactly. There was a reason why I ended the response I just gave with the issue about genuinity, because while I was going through some of the questions yesterday, I saw that question. I thought I could just answer it along the line. So how you can know genuine scholarships and the ones that are not is honestly by being on social media, by being a social media savvy person. If you are social media savvy and if you see scholarship webinars you are joining, listening to Q&As like this one that I'm doing, there is a natural exposure that comes with listening to talks about scholarships. So you learn a lot about scholarships usually, and you just become so open-eyed in the Nigerian language that once you see a scholarship that is not genuine, you'll know that this scholarship is not so genuine. You would even know if the scholarship is going to be an interesting one or not. By the time you attend different webinars, I can't tell you how many, as much as I've been attending conferences on public policy in Nigeria and beyond, right? Which is what I usually post on my social media. I can't remember how many scholarship webinar, Instagram Live, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, if that was existent then. But of course there would be some post on LinkedIn where I would post my questions then. I can't tell you how many I have attended. what they've done to me is to give me a very, very good understanding of scholarships and universities. It would be interesting for you to know that, because I was looking out for opportunities in the United Kingdom, even while I was in, I think I was in 200 level, because I can remember vividly when I was in 200 level, one day I was in my room at the students' lodge, and that was when I thought I should start making some moves officially for my scholarship. That was in 2015. I was already landing on scholarship websites. So, for example, I know the universities, right? You cannot just come and tell me about a fake university. I know, even if I have not visited. There is a way that if you tell me about a university in the UK, if it's new to me, I will know, right? Because I've gone through most of this. Because I used to go through rankings, and that's where I used to see the list of universities. So definitely the popular ones, I know them. The middle ranking ones, I know them. Low ranking ones, I know them. Right? The universities that do a few courses that I'm interested in, I know. And that's why for most times when people want to apply for scholarships, and I know what they do, I know their work, their amazing work, I would usually recommend a course. Not like I would choose for them, but if they ask me what they start looking at, right? Just for a start, I will tell them that, okay, I think you are good at this and that. Maybe you might want to look at this course, because I know that this particular university offers a course in this. So, and that was because of the research and the reading and the videos I used to watch then about the scholarships and the universities, especially in the United Kingdom. So if you tell me a scholarship, an admission process or any information about a university, and the name sounds strange to me, it's either two. Either the university is not very notable, or chances are that you might want to look at it, depending on the platform that you saw the scholarship news in, because it might be one of those things that you are suspecting. So by the time you are doing your research, attending those scholarship webinars, you will know that this is genuine or not. And like I said, be on social media. If it's a scam, these days social media has democratized information. You cannot just come and post something that is fake or not true on social media. People will roast you there. Sorry to use that word, but that's what usually happens. So on social media, you are able to see democratized information that has been social media peer reviewed, basically, because if it is fake, people would post their experiences there. Be on social media. Anything you hear about, look for it on Google. Okay, look for it on Google, or you can go to Twitter, for example. Check the name of the organization on Twitter, right? If you check the name of the organization on Twitter, if you see it, usually you'd see, for example, many followers, and if you see that verified badge, then Twitter has done its own work to make sure that to verify that this account is owned by this organization that claims to be representative of this brand. So whatever you see here is true, which means that if you visit the scholarship website through that link, you are almost rest assured that it is genuine. Also, you can check on your scholarship on the website. If you are going on the website, you might want to check. You will see on the URL column where you entered, where the link appears and the website appears, where you type it, there is a sign of a padlock, secured or insecure. To an extent, that might not 100% reveal the authenticity of a website, but to an extent, that is what I use to know whether a website is a genuine one or not. But yeah, be on social media. Ask questions. Yeah, ask. If you know somebody who is very, very conversant with scholarships, ask them if this is genuine or not. Check for them. You can leave that link that someone has sent you on the WhatsApp group or elsewhere separately. Go and look up for the name of the university online on Google. When you look for their name, open their website. If you open their website, check the email that they've provided there. Send them an email and ask if this scholarship is genuine. Or you can even ask them a message on Twitter. For example, once you see that verified badge, they are on Twitter with a verified badge, tweet them. That is what you are to be using your Twitter for, not to be there insulting people. So you go there. Sorry to the person asking the question. I'm not referring to. I'm just giving a hypothetical example. So that is what I'm not referring to. I'm sorry. So that is what you do. You go there and you ask them publicly that, hi, is this scholarship genuine? Are you the ones that advertise the scholarship? Usually they will say, oh yes, yeah, the scholarship is available. So that is how to verify. Denich Aniche is asking if there is any other fully funded scholarships in the UK that I can recommend. There are several scholarships in the United Kingdom. Several scholarships in the United Kingdom. I know, for example, I can list a few, but you can find out more. Some scholarships are not that public. You have to go to the scholarship. You have to go to the university website to find out about them. Some scholarships are not necessarily fully funded, like the one that I got, because the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship Program is fully funded. Everything is funded. Your travel, your visa cost, your IHS, that's Immigration Health Search, your international passport. There is a TB test that you do in Nigeria before you come. They pay for it. They pay for your accommodation. They pay for your school fees. They pay you monthly allowance. They essentially pay everything that is directly associated to your studies at the University of Edinburgh, and you don't have to pay a kobo. The only thing that I remember paying from my pocket would have been taking the taxi to the airport, but even that one, I got help from people. So thank you. So yeah, scholarships like the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, Commonwealth Master Scholarships, because there are two different scholarships, but they're funded by the same organization, but two different scholarships, and they are different in terms of their recruitment. Commonwealth Master Scholarship, you have to pass through the Federal Scholarship Board in Nigeria to get nominated. Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, you don't need this Federal Scholarship Board. You apply directly to the university and Commonwealth Shared Scholarship website, and then you get nominated by the university, and then you come here as a Commonwealth Scholar. But the other one, you have to follow the process of the Federal Scholarship Board. Chevening Scholarship, one of the most notable ones here in the UK. UK's flagship scholarship program, Chevening, is also a scholarship that you can look at. And the interesting thing about Chevening Scholarship is that you don't have to have a T1 to apply for a Chevening Scholarship, but you have to, of course, have a work experience and the kind of profile that would allow you to secure admission at a UK university for a 1-year master's program. That is what they require. But of course, it's very, very competitive. They usually have between 8,000 and 10,000 applicants from Nigeria, and places are usually between 39 and 60. So yeah, you should know the kind of competition you are going to face. I have personally applied for the Chevening Scholarship several times unsuccessfully. In fact, at a point in time, I got admission at the University of Glasgow, at the University of Sussex, at the University of Reading. In fact, I even got an admission at the London School of Economics, all in anticipation for the Chevening Scholarship, which I didn't get. There is also a few scholarships that are within the university. I think at the University of Glasgow, they have the African Excellence Fee Waiver. At the University of Sussex, there is another scholarship called Institute of Development Studies Graduate Scholarships. I have applied for that scholarship as well. It also gives you opportunity to study for masters in development programs, similar to the courses offered by the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program. Sometimes they used to call it Hans Singer, Alan Nestor Ferguson Charitable Trust. Yeah, it's a charity that gives a scholarship. There is also one at the University of Sheffield, Alan Nestor Ferguson Charitable Trust Scholarship. Yeah, I remember just when we were coming to the UK, they were recruiting. Applications were ongoing for that scholarship. A few people have even reached out to ask me about the scholarship. I know someone who got that scholarship, but eventually didn't take it. There is also another scholarship at the University of East Anglia. I can't even remember the name, but the scholarship is for people in environment, all those climate action, climate change policy courses. So if you're interested in those and you have the background in that area, you might want to try those. So at the end of the day, the key thing for you to do to find out about scholarships in the UK is by visiting university websites. Do what I did. The funny thing that happened at some point while I was in Nigeria was that I was at work and it was time for break. And I was just passing by a colleague who was on their laptop because it was break time. And I just passed. I think that time I hadn't gotten my scholarship. I hadn't even gotten interviewed by Mastercard Foundation Scholarship. And just when I passed, I was trying to joke with my colleague. I said, sort of workplace room. I said, what am I saying like the University of Edinburgh website? He was like, yeah, that's what I'm on. So to tell you how much I have visited the website in a way that just the way that if I see the logo or the sign of some universities in Nigeria that are quite notable, I would know that this is that university in this or that state. Was the same way that I had developed some level of enthusiastic familiarity with the universities here in the UK. So you might want to do that, and then you would know about the scholarships. You can even sign up for their mailing list, although your email might become so busy, you might be missing on important invitations for interview or something, but you just have to have a way of keeping track of the scholarships and knowing when they're advertised. Social media, like I said, is very important. Twitter, LinkedIn, join them. Follow scholarship platforms. Follow scholarship people. There is, a scholarship network. People who always talk about scholarships. They are there. You can go and follow them. Yeah, for those that are joining, in case I've missed you, just know that it's because we are so busy already trying to answer questions from enthusiastic scholarship applicants, and that's why I am unable to acknowledge you. I can see Shamsuddin Aladu. Adi Shamsu, thank you for joining. Hello. I can see Olurunfemi Boluatife. Okay, I can see Aisha Nawo, Abdullah, Bashir Umar, Abubakar Ishaq. Thank you for joining. So Abubakar Ishaq, not to put you on the spotlight, but he used to be a very, very kind tutor of mine while I was in the university during my undergrad. So shout out to you. Okay, yeah, we are making a lot of progress. Now let me move to this question sent by Bashir Shuaibu Buba, who is asking what the main requirements are for selection for the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship. Well, the requirements are listed on the website. You should go and read through the website and you will see the requirements, but I have already mentioned the requirements in the beginning of the video. I think of course, because the questions were sent via my DMs, they were not sent live, so it's very possible for two people to have sent the same questions. So I believe that your question has been answered, and that was the whole reason behind the initial introduction I gave of what I was doing before I got the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship. It was for people to then use that information and the eligibility requirements that have been stated on the website to now bring it together and see how they could come and how they are going to be suitable for the scholarship. You don't have to have done exactly what I did, but you just have to have had some work experience to an extent. Work experience, I mean leadership experience basically. If I say work experience, some people might be scared of, but it's just community service experience. I'm just giving you an example. For example, if maybe what you've been doing in the last 3 years is to come out every weekend, bring people together in your community, and you sweep the street. That is some voluntary and community leadership experience that can be quite powerful, especially these days with environmental conscience. But how have you been doing it? How have you demonstrated your ability to scale up that community service? How have you been able to mainstream some form of fact-based analysis in the way you carry out the work? Because at the end of the day, they are not just looking out for people who are just only, book smart. They are looking for people who study and they believe in using academic knowledge to improve society. That is what they are looking out for. So yeah, if you have been, for example, like I said, if you remember, I said I had even volunteered to teach at a secondary school for 1 year during my national service. And remember, the teaching I did while I was doing my national service was not my primary assignment. That was not what NYSC mandated me to do. But NYSC allows you to do something to change the community where you are doing your NYSC. And what I did, among the things that I did to help the community I was serving in, was to teach. I identified a school that was not very far from where I was living in Abuja then, and I was going there twice every week on Friday and very early in the morning on Tuesday, because I had a place of primary assignment where I was going to, and I went there literally almost every day except for public holidays throughout my national service, on top of doing the voluntary service. So because work started at 9 a.m. at that organization where I did my primary national assignment, I will wake up very early in the morning because I arranged with the school to give me the periods very early in the morning. So I would go there very early in the morning, teach SS1 students. Once I'm done with my period, I go to work. And then on Fridays, that is community service day, CDS day for NYSC, when we come together to meet as co-members, talk about the community service we are doing, and if there are issues in the country, we would think about them, because I had a very, very vibrant CDS group then, the Sustainable Development Goals CDS group, SDGs. And in that CDS group, every week we submitted reports of what we've been doing during the week. Not just reports of what we've been doing, but number of people we've been able to reach, organizations we've worked with, and pictures of us while we were doing the projects. We submitted that every week in my CDS group, NYSC. So if you want to actually want to build work experience, you have to give up the desire for money making quickly. I know that money is very necessary. I mean, make legal money is good, but as a young person, you are just growing up, you probably don't have enough skills yet or enough experience. Give up your desire for money to build some work experience along the line, and you'd come and enjoy it later in life. So I would advise everyone to do that. So those maybe I'm just talking about this just to inspire you to build the kind of profile that would usually attract the attention of selection committees. Although what I must stress is that you don't do it because you want to get a scholarship, right? You just do it because this is something you want. This is just something that you want to do. You just feel like there's a vacuum. Apparently, my society or my community or my country needs this, but it can't pay for it, for example, and I have the time. For example, for me, while I was doing my NYC, I mean, I was getting paid, I had an allowance, right? The country was literally paying me an allowance, and although I understand that cost of living might be different from person to person, I was in a position where I had the privilege to be able to render those voluntary services just with the allowance I was receiving for NYC. But I understand that for some people it can be quite difficult, but one always has to find a way of striking a balance, of finding a way of making some impact, no matter how little. If you just can't do anything that is capital intensive, you can just do it on your phone. You can just decide to say, okay, you know what, this is what I'm going to start educating people about environmental conscience on, say, for example, my WhatsApp status. And I really want to do this because I want to change behavior with regards to climate change. And you've of course done something to make the world better than you met it. So all these things are some of the things that you have to do. You have to have that desire to make the world a better place. That is usually what scholarships like the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program is looking out for. Yeah, leadership. Someone, okay. Yeah, Bashir Shuaibu went on to ask, it's a similar question that does he need leadership experience to win the scholarship? Like I said, leadership is broadly defined by organizations like the Mastercard Foundation. It's about making your society better. It's about being a better person. Sometimes it's even about leadership of the self, because during the program we went through immersion in transformative leadership, where sometimes we just sit down and think about ourselves and our lives and what we've done in the past that we want to change and how we want to become better people. That is how leadership starts, by looking at yourself first, thinking about what you can change in the way you live your life so that you would become a more productive person, a better person, sometimes even a nicer person, that when people meet you, they don't feel like their situation has been made worse. Leadership can start from that. But of course, if you are able to not just lead yourself but also lead a wider society, then of course there is something that you are offering to the society, right? So yeah, it's good to change yourself, but it's even better if you can change yourself plus the society and make it a better place. Can final year students apply? Well, it depends on how quickly you can get your certificate, because you need your certificate to apply. But if you go to the website, there's a particular month that they've stated that you have to have graduated by that time. If not, you are not eligible. But sometimes this information, I don't want to be revealing them because they are there for people to go and read. If anyone thinks that they can just see that link that I posted on my Facebook page and then maybe just rely on this live session, ask a few questions, and then go and start writing the application, and then be coming back to ask me questions that are already available on the website to then win the scholarship, then the person has to like think over it again, because scholarship requires a lot of reading and self-leadership, self-status. Usually there is such trait as self-status. Some organizations, sometimes you see when they're employing, they'll say they want self-status. Essentially what they're looking for is somebody who is mostly independent in what they do. They only ask for help when they need it. When they can't do it by themselves, that is when they ask for help, but not people who would want to put their burden on other people when they can actually shoulder the burden by themselves. Because think about other people as yourself also. They also have other things that they're doing. So if people do for you what you can do for yourself ordinarily, then when would you expect them to do what they have to do by themselves, which other people can't do for them? So it's a kind of emotional intelligence ponder that we might be talking about maybe later in another session, because it's very, very important. As a young person who is focused on self-development, there are certain emotional intelligence that you have to develop, and these things are all part of them. And the more you develop them, they help you to learn quickly. You learn quickly, you get through challenges quickly, you achieve things easier, and then you maintain focus. So these are all important things. They are some of the skills that one needs sometimes in the scholarship application journey. Spend about 4 years trying to get postgraduate scholarship in the UK and North America. So that tells you how much you need to give in terms of effort and emotional intelligence. Kelvin Saidinga, kindly talk on the personal statement, how to write an outstanding one. So personal statement is an essay that you write making a case for why you should be selected for admission for a program. It's a tradition in universities in UK, North America, and elsewhere in the world today when you are going for a postgraduate program, because postgraduate program is different from an undergraduate program. Remember, you are going to become a master. Literally, they said master in this, which means that this person is not even going there to be struggling to know basic concepts. The person is just going there to become a master in that discipline, to be able to apply the knowledge to tackle some of the world's most pressing challenges. So you need to make a case, you need to write a document, you need to sit down, think about why you even want to do the masters. What have you seen what particular things have you seen in the master's program that attract your attention? What in the master's program can you learn that would enable you to achieve the things that you set out to achieve in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years? You have to be very, very clear about those. I mean, you don't have to be very specific, but you have to be clear about it. You have to have a vision that is consistent. And that is why they need that personal statement, because they use that personal statement to access that. So in order to learn how to write personal statement, it's not something that we can briefly talk about and pass as if it's something that is easy to do. Till today, if for example I want to apply for further studies again, if I write a personal statement and hand it to like experienced applicants, they would have a few things that they would tell me to like restate or change. Okay, so but at the end of the day, there's the central message must be there. So if you want to learn about how to write personal statement, there are videos on YouTube that you can go and search for. There are a lot of channels that you can go and watch. We have Victor Agboga. He does fantastic work in teaching young Nigerians, especially because he's also from Nigeria, had a philosophy degree from Imo State University and Pontificia, went on to get about 5 scholarships in Europe and America, has 2 master's degrees, is currently doing a PhD, he wins a lot of grants. So he dishes out a lot of information regarding how to write a personal statement. He has one video where he read out his personal statement. Perhaps we would also, depending on the kind of demand that I see, we might want to do a session essentially for personal statement. But for now, I would just refer you to those channels. We have Soles Ojotole also. She is also a YouTuber, a Mastercard Foundation scholar. I mean, alumna. In my cohort, we were in the same class. She has a channel where she talks about scholarships, getting admission in the UK, resettlement, and all those things. So you can learn from those, because YouTube is now a university in itself. You can learn a lot of things from YouTube. Personally, I learned a lot of things regarding my scholarship application from YouTube. My field, development sector, I learned a lot about the development sector through watching videos on YouTube. The universities that I've been applying to, I learned about them on YouTube. Some of them I would watch videos, random videos sometimes, just video of a lecture delivered at the University of Edinburgh, for example. I'll just go and watch for 1 hour 30 minutes. Yeah, and that has helped me a lot. In the past 4 years, that's all that I've been doing, because I had become so enthusiastic about scholarship and postgraduate study. I was getting entertained watching a talk about a development policy issue for 2 hours, 3 hours. It was not a problem for me. Like, I would watch it, and I really enjoyed watching them. Right? I really enjoyed watching them because it was something I was passionate about. I would watch conferences. I wasn't privileged enough to attend the World Economic Forum in Davos that usually holds in January, but I would usually look for the key sessions, and I would watch them until I became a member of the Global Shapers Community, which is an initiative of the World Economic Forum, which now gives me an ability to, when I have the chance, I can apply to attend one of the World Economic Forum's annual meetings if I want to, as a global shaper. It's not a given, but as a global shaper, I can apply to attend, and I'll be invited, sponsored to attend. So that's what passion does to you. That's what developing, building resilience and genuine interest to learn helps you to achieve. So yeah, you can watch those channels as well as other channels, and then on your Twitter, social media, follow those people that talk about scholarship. These days we have a lot of people. We have Dr. Digbo Awojide. We have, although he doesn't just talk about scholarships or masters, he talks about self-development for young people in Nigeria generally, how to get employment in all these consultancy firms, top companies, get a job abroad, get a PhD, get a master's, everything that would ensure your development as a young person. Those are some of the things he talks about. Even tech, he talks about it, how to get a job in tech. We have Dr. Olufumilayo. Those ones are the ones that essentially just talk about postgraduate school. We have Dr. Olu. He talks about how to develop a research proposal. For him, it's about research, how to conduct research. That's what he aims to do, develop research capacity. All those guys are on Twitter. They organize spaces where people come and talk about the issues that you would only hear people talking about within the four walls of classrooms in universities in Nigeria, that you can't get to listen to except if you go to university. These people talk about them on Twitter openly. All you need is just a Twitter account and an internet access. When you see them, you join, you can ask questions, and you can develop your knowledge. I think knowledge is getting democratized. We're developing. A lot of skills are becoming available in Nigeria, and people are pretty much willing to give it out so that we can achieve some prosperity and move from the level that we are to where we want to be. So yeah, just be on the lookout. Use social media very, very wisely. Follow those accounts. You'll learn how to write personal statements. Okay, there is this round of questions. I'll probably rush them because I think I am delving too much on the questions. I probably need to become a bit quicker. Someone said Nafiu said that he's just concluded his final exams. Yeah, he has a high CGPA. Yeah, well, yeah, it depends. Nafi, you can just send me another message. We'll probably just talk personally, but there are a lot of videos. I'm going to send you a message with some combination of videos which I've watched during my time, and I learned a lot from those videos. Those were some of the videos that got me inspired to apply for the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship. Because most of the people who had won the scholarship then were talking about some of the things that I had done already. The questions that you are literally asking me now, then I was also watching a session like this, and once I heard those things, I felt inspired that yeah, perhaps I could also get the scholarship. So if you want to have that kind of inspiration, perhaps what we need to do is to talk. My Nasara Isa is asking if there is any other platform for nurses to apply for studies outside Nigeria. I am not quite familiar with the healthcare sector, but I know that within our cohort, the Scholars Program at the University of Edinburgh last year, we had some doctors, people who were medical doctors or practiced as doctors in Nigeria before they came. And some of them were studying MSc Global Health Policy. Global Health Policy is a course similar to international development that focuses on the healthcare sector. And it focuses on policy in the healthcare sector. So it's not necessarily about how to treat this illness or that illness, but how to manage the healthcare sector at policy level, like what they do at the Ministry of Health, how they engage with stakeholders from the World Health Organization, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, how they receive COVID-19 assistance, for example, how to position the primary healthcare in a state government in order for you to be able to, achieve this or achieve that. I remember one of our scholars then, she came back, she traveled to London, came back, posted a few photos, and I saw her with the governor of my state, because they met somewhere where they were talking about some universal healthcare coverage in Nigeria, and the conference was held in London. So those are some of the opportunities for people in the healthcare in the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program at the University of Edinburgh. There is MSc Global Health Policy, but I think this year there is no opportunity to study that course. However, there are other opportunities. The Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, for example, has opportunity to study MSc Global Health Policy, I'm sure, because almost every year they offer that course as a scholarship in different universities, either MSc Global Health Policy, MSc Public Health, although I've learned that they are different, but they are somewhat similar because all of them want to deal with public health, in a broad way. So there are such opportunities. However, because it's a master's program in the United Kingdom, you have to have the requirement that would allow you to secure admission for a master's program in a UK university. So as such, typically, the answer that I would be more confident in answering is that if you have a degree in nursing, if you have a degree, a bachelor's degree, I know that a lot of Nigerian universities now offer degrees in nursing. If you have such and you've done extensive work, because one thing is that there are some sectors that it's always easier to demonstrate work experience in those sectors, and healthcare is one of them. It is one of them. So it's easy to say that you've been involved in clinical assistance. I don't want to misuse the jargons that you use at the hospital, but it's easier to say that you see so number of patients, you oversee this and that, and you can win a scholarship with that. And because healthcare is something very, very imperative, it's very, very likely for you to attract the attention of the selection committee. So but there are that's my response to that. So there are such opportunities, but you just have to read through. So a nurse could have gotten the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship to study MSc Global Health Policy, for example. It depends on what you want to do, actually. There are people who would have studied medicine in their first degree, but you would see that they would get a scholarship in the UK to study journalism. It happens. It happens, actually. You would see some people, they studied one thing and they're practicing something else. And here in the UK, they allow that so long as you're able to demonstrate passion. And it's an area that you can demonstrate, understanding, and you've acquired the knowledge, you can do it. What I don't see people doing is somebody studying a social science course to become a medical doctor. That doesn't happen. So there is a limit to this statement that I'm making, right? It's not like they just allow people to do anything without training. You don't do that. Zareddin said he believes the scholarship essay is one of the main criterion. So what key points, what key aspect should people concentrate in? What key aspect should people concentrate on when they want to write the essays? Well, for me, I had a way of writing my essays, and what I used to do was that I would be very, very specific. My passion would be I would have a very, very clear passion that this is it. This is the context in the region where I'm coming from in Nigeria. Mostly the theme of my essay will revolve around northern Nigeria and some of the reports that World Bank is publishing about northern Nigeria, and probably because I was in the sector, I was reading a lot of things. I remember actually I was attending conferences, I was listening to all these things. I know where to key in. I had already made connections and networks with people who would tell me that, okay, this is where people like you could come in, Mustafa, with your skills, for example, or with what you know at your level, at your age, for example, with your level of knowledge, with this and this and that. This is what you can do in this sector. So that network helped me to understand even myself and what I can offer to the society. While I was applying for the scholarship, I had networked with several people, a lot of people. I can't tell how many people I have met while I was applying to scholarships, attending conferences, and all those people, I was not networking with them to get any favor, but just because our interest connected, and they helped me to understand certain things about work and life. So that is what I used to write in my application. And so I was usually writing my application with some clarity. And so because I was doing my research, I was also targeting lecturers. So for example, my research went to the extent that I will not just read about the department. When I go to the website, I would open the lecturer's profile, read through the lecturer's profile, read through his publications. Sometimes, if I had the time and I saw that there was really a good connection between me and the lecturer, I would even watch some videos of the lecturer delivering some talks elsewhere, read through his profile. Sometimes, briefly go through some of the papers he has published, just to see the things he did in his papers. And then, when I am writing my essay, for example, in the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship essay that I wrote, I targeted one lecturer at the University of Edinburgh named Dr. Andrew Berman. Dr. Andrew Berman has done some research on how South Africa enacted some policies to develop marginalized black communities just after apartheid in South Africa. And while I was writing my essay, I said that I wanted to have conversations with lecturers like Dr. Andrew Berman, whose experience in researching about the empowerment of black people in South Africa would help me to learn about policies that we can do to empower marginalized communities in northern Nigeria. Because, I believe I thought of his research as a research that was about how if you have, a society, a collective society where one is developing more than the other, how you can bring others to speed, and so that they can be at par with each other in terms of development, social development. So I thought there could be some such interesting conversations. I also mentioned one other lecturer, Dr. Ramasela Dieng, who had been a Chevening scholar in the past. She had worked with a lot of UN agencies, and she was also a lecturer at my department. So I said that one of the visions I had was to work for one of these international organizations, and I believe that having her as my lecturer would help me to get her own mentorship in order to be able to acquire the kind of skill sets that I need to get that kind of job. And of course, by the time I was joining the university, she wasn't around, but on one faithful day, I was going to the faculty, and then we met, and eventually we actually met. And as if I had known, what I saw in her profile that attracted me was actually accurate, because we had a long conversation. Then she asked me about what I was going to do, what I wanted to do with the masters, where I was going for my placement as at the time. And then as at the time I was going for my work placement, the organization I was going for my placement was the organization that gave her the scholarship that she used to do her PhD. So she was already telling me things I can, think about, how I can develop my skills as an international development student, whatnot. So I mentioned that in my personal statement to tell them that, look, this is somebody who knows what they want to come and do in Edinburgh. And of course, I eventually got selected for the scholarship. I also targeted some courses. I will read through, because if there is a course also, I will read through the topics that are going to be taught in the course and see which topics in the course would enable me to practice the kind of contribution I want to make back at home in Nigeria. And I would state that in my application that I want to take the MSc Africa International Development because of the module titled Governance, Development and Poverty in Africa, because I want to learn the constraints that are in Nigeria, for example, put by the policies of international organizations that we can, negotiate in order to achieve some level of development. That is why I want to do this course, that when I come back, I will be able to help organizations in Nigeria to negotiate these terms and be able to enhance and improve social development. So that is the extent of research that you need to portray in writing the essay that would get you selected for the scholarship. I hope this has answered your question. Jamal Moko is asking, please, what other things apart from our educational qualification do one need to apply for MSc? Apart from educational qualification is work experience. Work experience, voluntary. If you have an experience in consultancy or voluntary experience, most times it has more weight because it will be unique. For example, bringing people together in your community to sweep the streets and put signboards to tell people to stop dropping trash on the roads is voluntary, but it's very, very unique. It's very, very unique. It will be unique if you put it alongside other experiences that might even be paid, but it's just a routine thing. There is no leadership, there is no coordination involved. But the voluntary experience would show some level of interest that you can even work without pay. And that is why if your experience is not paid, you shouldn't underestimate it. It can be very, very powerful. Is the master's scholarship okay? He went on to ask, is international passport a requirement? It isn't for the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, but maybe a few scholarships would ask you to submit a passport, but most times they will tell you that you don't have to submit it. You can either submit. I know there is one particular university, I remember that time they asked if I could submit my international passport or a national ID card. I remember. I can't remember. I mean, I remember that I was asked to do any of those, but I can't remember the particular platform that asked me for that. So having a passport is not a requisite. Basically, that is what I'm saying. You don't have to have, don't allow not having a passport or not having an IELTS stop you from applying to scholarships, okay? But of course, if you get the passport, it will help. So if you can get a passport, if you have some money, if as a young person, you are doing NYSC, you are making some money, if you can, your NYSC money is not for you to just play around. Please, if you know that you don't have other sources of money, that your NYSC money, if you know that you want to start applying for scholarships, that is what you save up to take IELTS. That is what you save up to travel back to your university and ask for your transcript. That is what you also use to maybe take 1 or 2 online courses so that you can improve your understanding of an area, especially for people who want to pivot from one course to the other. I studied political science, but I want to study environmental sciences in my master's. That money that you have been making from NYSC is meant for you then to save some and do an online course, 1 or 2, so that you can now start demonstrating interest in environmental sciences, that you are even taking online courses, although you went and studied political science for your undergrad. So that is some of the things that you have to do. And then read books as well, books about the area, okay, not just random books. Everything should be targeted. Even the work experience that they always talk about that you need to get a scholarship is not any type of experience. The experience should look relevant to what you want to do. There should be something intentional about the experience, okay? So yeah, do those things, and you don't need a passport to apply for a scholarship, please. Is there a master's scholarship open to all undergraduate courses? Yeah, there are. Like I said, at the moment, there are scholars, members of the scholars program community at the University of Edinburgh that are undergrads, but I didn't study as an undergrad under the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, so I can't really speak about recruitment for undergraduate scholarship, although I met one of the undergrads, because I've met a lot of them. We used to meet during some of our meetings, and sometimes at the university or in the library we meet, and then because we are members of the MCF community, would usually just stop by to say hello, hi. There was that kind of camaraderie between us. So yeah, but what I just know is that they are mostly very, very brilliant students while they were in secondary school. Very, very, very brilliant. Yeah, so yeah, you would want to focus on, studying very, very, very hard in order to get an undergraduate scholarship, because for masters, there is some leverage for you to show exception with a unique work experience, right? I didn't have a first class, for example. I didn't finish with a first class. I finished with a 2-1, although it was a high 2-1, 4 point something. But I also had work experience, so put those together. For a master's applicant, you can then make a case. If your degree is not so exceptional, you can cover that up with some good work experience. But for undergrad, there is little chance. Although even among 16, 17-year-olds, you can see some of them doing exceptional things. Someone could have been, very, very good at sports in secondary school, has already started a small voluntary organization in secondary school. I, for example, know a few people who are doing those things at a very young age. They already have a CV up to 1 page, showing some unique work experience. It happens, you can do it. And especially in a country like Nigeria, there are a lot of voluntary things to do. So do those if you want an undergraduate scholarship. And then get your grades also. Your WAEC should be bringing out A's if you can, please. Okay, that 200 level question I've answered it. Can someone who is currently going for undergraduate degree in Nigeria still apply? Yes, I have seen someone who was already on track to get an undergraduate scholarship while they were in secondary school. And because of course scholarship can take some time. It's not because it can be eventual at times. It's a planned eventuality though. So some might have already started doing an undergraduate degree before they would then be offered a scholarship. Then they would usually abandon the program they are doing, and then they would come and join. I know someone who told me that they had already started the University of Abuja before they eventually got the undergraduate scholarship, and they left there. And I know one other person who, in fact, was in 300 level, right? And then they got another undergraduate scholarship, and yeah, they had to abandon that to go for the scholarship. It's about what you want, to be honest. It's about what you want. I'm not saying that at all the time it is a good thing or it's a bad thing, but it's about what you want. But usually, because scholarships are quite prestigious, yeah, they are quite prestigious, and they are usually in special programs that ordinarily you would not be able to do without a scholarship. So people would usually want to opt for the scholarship and leave the degrees that they've started. But remember that as an undergraduate, if you are doing well, there are scholarships as well. I said that while I was doing my undergrad, I got the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria National Merit Scholarship. Although it was just a bursary, so it's not like they were changing my school. I was still in my university, but they were sending me money in the beginning of every year. And by the time I had finished my undergraduate studies and I calculated the money I had received in bursaries for my program, they paid my school fees from 100 level to 400 level, with even some change that I could keep to like buy some essential items that I needed. So you can start looking out for those scholarships. But to apply for those scholarships, you have to have, I think, 5 credits in your SSCE, and then you have to have a good JAM score, and then you have to have a CGPA of 3.5. And you have to start looking out very early. For me, most times, what always helps me is that I start things very early. If I want to do something, I start it very early. I remember we were in SS3. We were doing these extramural lessons that they do, extension that they do in SS3. And we were praying. I still remember. And I said that when I get to university, I want to get one of these oil company scholarships so that I can fund my undergraduate studies. And yes, I got it. But I was talking about it even when I was in SS3. Then when I was in the university, after I came here a few months ago, one of my roommates in the university then told me that, do you know that even when we were in school then, undergrad, you were saying that you wanted to get a master's scholarship? I was like, oh my God, yeah, I remember, but I can't remember like that. I even told you, was like, yeah, you said it. So it's about knowing what you want early enough so that you can start planning. Because most times scholarships are to be applied for. They hardly just give you scholarship because you are the most brilliant person in your village. No. If you want scholarship, you apply. They interview, they do their selection process, and they choose. That's what happens. So it's about application. It's about application and having the right kind of profile. So that is that for the people asking about, can an undergraduate apply or not? Yeah, an undergraduate can apply, but the application usually starts in secondary school. And sometimes there is this information that I need to share. Undergraduate scholarships usually they start in secondary school, right? So there are particular secondary school that, to be honest, if you go there, you are more likely to get a scholarship. Okay, either or if you are in secondary school, because you have to be supported, because it's assumed that you are young, you're under 18, so most things have to be done for you. So I think the best thing to get people to get undergraduate scholarship depends to an extent on people other than the students themselves. So for example, if I want my brother to get an undergraduate scholarship, I should then start helping them. Sometimes, like I said, the school that you take them to, there are some exceptional schools where they take students who have demonstrated high level of academic intelligence through their examinations, maybe JSCE. Then when they're going to senior school, you take them there, because that is where the scholarship sponsors usually come to advertise for those scholarships, and that's where you get to know, because you have to be within a space to know about opportunities. So sometimes secondary school that you attend matters, although it can be just in any secondary school, but you might want to then think about the kind of secondary school you go to. And at the end of the day, it's about aspiration. If you know that you have a younger brother, or you are in secondary school and you want to get an undergraduate scholarship, and maybe you are in JS3 at the moment, you can then start using your phone, because these days they have phones. You can start thinking of good secondary schools that get a lot of funding and scholarships. You can then make it your dream that when I finish JS3, I want to go to this secondary school because it's a good secondary school. It's one of the best in Nigeria. Sometimes it helps, but it depends. But for the bursaries that oil companies give, like I said, you can get it even while you are in the university, but you have to apply, and you usually apply within first and second year. When you get 300 level, it's hardly for the scholarships to find you eligible. Can I apply for my MSc in architecture? For the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, masters, they don't fund architecture. But undergraduate, I know that we have one scholar that is doing architecture at the moment. Yeah, but for the masters, they don't sponsor people to study architecture. And if you have a tutu, I'm sorry, you can apply for the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship at the University of Edinburgh. Abubakar Ibrahim is asking if English proficiency test IELTS. Yeah, I've answered this question. They are not that necessary. It depends. But I know that schools in the Middle East would want to use your IELTS to access your application. But if you are applying to schools in the UK, they would usually allow you to submit an application. They will give you a conditional offer. And for them to remove the condition on your offer, you have to then submit an IELTS test, or just a proof that you've been taught in English. Some schools would accept that, some would not. The online program is that someone is asking, Adamu Musagar was asking about the online program. Online masters, you get it, and then you essentially just you study online. You study online. Although I know that I think they probably provide some little stipends for people to go to secure internet access, because it's usually for people who are working and they can't leave their jobs to come for the masters. So their programs are offered online, and usually some programs will not be offered online, and some programs might be limited to people that are going to take them online. So yeah, you study online with your laptop. Basically, that's what it is about. When on our graduation day, after the ceremony, which I shared with you on my Facebook page and other social media, at night we had a dinner with the Mastercard Foundation Scholars community, because we are a community. The staff, the students, the undergrads, and everywhere, a community. Like, you wouldn't know that this is a staff and this is a student. We usually have this very, very, good understanding and familiarity among us. So we were hosted to a dinner, and some of the attendees in the dinner, I remember, told us that they were online scholars. They only came for the graduation, that all their masters, while we were doing it on campus, they were doing it from their respective countries in Africa. They only came for the graduation in person. So yeah, that is brief about the online program. Maybe you might want to read about it. So yeah, this is it. We've come to the end of this phase of the questions. I will now answer the questions that people are asking live. I'm sorry, I think some people have left the session, but there is no problem. You can always come back and watch later. I had to make sure that I started with the questions that people had sent earlier. So there is no problem if you've received an undergraduate scholarship. In fact, it's even good. It helps you to demonstrate. For example, and I'm answering your question, Kelvin. You posted it in the live session. Having an undergraduate scholarship is not a problem. I had the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria National Merit Scholarship during my undergraduate studies, and I even indicated that within the first 2 paragraphs of my application essay for the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, I indicated that I had a scholarship during my undergraduate studies. But it's about how you talk about the undergraduate scholarship. What I told them was that, okay, here was I came from, a humble background, and then once I was an adult and I was in control of my life, I started taking intentional actions to make sure that I improved not just my life, but the life of the society around me. So I went to the university and even secured a scholarship to study for my undergraduate studies. And with that scholarship, I had some privilege then as a student, because it meant that I needed to worry about just a few things, because almost everything had been taken care of with the scholarship, right? So I was able to attend conferences, because I had the money to travel for conferences. I and also that because I was an honor student, I was even organizing tutorial classes sometimes, right? And I was even a member of the students union, where I had the platform to collaborate with other students to do important things for the student community. So yeah, an undergraduate scholarship should be a plus. In fact, they sometimes scholarship bodies would even want to know that you've had a scholarship in undergraduate. Yeah, some of them would want to know that. For example, in Mastercard, I know that there is a scholar among us who had a Mastercard Foundation Scholarship while they were undergoing their secondary school education. So it's a sign that you are investment worthy, that you've attracted scholarship in the past and you've used it to get to this level, that you're worth investing in going further. So yeah, state it. It's good. Okay. I don't know what's happening though, but is it like some questions are disappearing already? Okay. I hope. Well, let me go to the next one. Someone is asking Aminu that they are a medical student. Can they apply for this scholarship after their graduation? Yes, you can apply if you can provide your certificate by the time you are supposed to, by the time that they require you to submit your certificate. But go to the website, check. There is a date that they've given that if you haven't graduated by that time, you cannot apply for this in this intake. The English test is not so hard. I guess you are asking about the English test. It's not so hard. So long as you are in Nigeria, so long as you've undergone your education in Nigeria, it wouldn't be difficult for you because you can tackle it, honestly. Is it possible to get rejected by the school after you are awarded a scholarship by Mastercard? I have never heard of anyone who has experienced such. Because remember, if you apply for Mastercard Foundation Scholarship, you are going to fill an eligibility section. The eligibility section tries to pre-access whether you can get admission at the University of Edinburgh. If you know that you cannot get admission at the University of Edinburgh, they will not allow you to apply for the scholarship. So you are definitely going to get the admission, except eventual cases. Usually there are eventual cases where, but it usually doesn't happen. So remember, like I said, there was an agreement that the university was going to remove every form of restriction that would stop students from studying at the University of Edinburgh when they get the scholarships. As such, you are always given an admission to study, don't worry. What is the chance that someone who runs an NGO that provides education to under-resourced communities to get selected for African international development? Well, it's probably because you want to apply for African international development. And usually, to be honest, because African international development is quite flexible. So people come in doing NGO work in different sectors, whether it's environment, whether it's political development, whether it's girl child education, whether it's marginalized communities. Usually people will apply for African international development and they would eventually get the scholarship. If they're able to like meet the eligibility requirement and they're able to, come off as impressive candidates during the interview, they would get it. I know someone who was doing a similar thing, NGO on education, basic education, and they got into the program. One of the best scholars in my cohort had an experience in education and studied African international development, was in my class, a very, very impressive young person. Now go to Shamsu. Can someone, Aisha now Abdullah is asking, can someone with a 2 apply? I think I've answered this question. No, you cannot apply for the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program at the University of Edinburgh if you don't have up to a 2-1. Please, can you... Yeah, I've mentioned the few scholarships in the UK, but I might want to... Can I even list more? There is another one that I forgot to mention. There is one Mo Ibrahim Foundation Scholarship at the University of Birmingham, but they pick only one student. I've applied before, although I didn't get it, but it's also a scholarship for masters in the UK. During my time, it was MSc International Development with specialization in governance and state building. But I think last year it was MSc Development Policy. So, but that one is only first class. Yeah, it's only first class. Mo Ibrahim Foundation Scholarship at the University of Birmingham. That time, 2019, when I applied, it was only first class. And the following year, it was only first class. I even went on to meet someone who got the scholarship, who also made a first class in their undergraduate studies. So it's also another scholarship in the UK that if you have a first class, you might want to look at. But it's only first class that can apply, and it's only one course. Okay. Yeah, Abubakar Ishaq is asking how to write the references, SOP, motivation letter, and who to write our references. Okay, I think I've tackled the SOP, motivation letter, and personal statement thing. Remember, SOP, that is statement of purpose, motivation letter, personal statement, statement of intent, statement of interest are all the same thing. They just want you to write a prose about your motivation for the program. I have talked about that. Now, reference is a letter that you provide written by someone who you've worked with, or your previous instructor, that's lecturer, to attest to your skills and your capabilities and your ability to be able to undertake a demanding master's program in the United Kingdom. So you want to think of your reference, like I said, as a testimony or as a validation. It is also targeted. And that is why the person writing your reference has to be someone that knows you very well. And he should have seen your personal statement, because what they want him to do, what you want your reference to do is to, the things that you've mentioned in your personal statement, for the lecturer to say that, yes, this is somebody who is interested in this, he has the skills. For example, let me just tell you, I said in my scholarship essay that I wanted to do MSc Africa International Development because of a module called Governance, Development and Poverty in Africa, that it has this and that. It has some contents that would expose me to the workings of the international organizations and how they shape policy in developing countries. And I want to learn about those so that I can come and help organizations to negotiate terms with them to be able to shape social development in my region, in Nigeria. Now, the lecturer in my reference would say that, for example, yes, I was particularly interested in development studies, courses which he taught me during undergraduate level, because I asked a lot of questions related to this and that. And for example, when we were doing classroom discussions, I was able to give fascinating ideas about social development in Nigeria. And he believes that with my interest in voluntary activities, I'm somebody who wants to use knowledge to impact society. So that is the kind of reference that you have to submit when you want to get this kind of scholarships. Not the general reference where they would say something like Mustafa is a good student, very brilliant. That one is very generic. They can say that about everyone. There is nothing specific. But when they say that he makes interesting contributions in discussions about social development in Africa, that is different. In a class, some people will talk, some don't, right? It's not so yeah, your reference should go on to validate the point you are making, that you deserve to come and study at a top university. So that is how to write a reference, and it should be a bit lengthy. It should be up to one page, like 400 words, 450 to 500 words. Okay, I have this question also from okay. My brother is asking, when is the right time for applying for the scholarship and university session start? Okay, when does university session start in the UK? Yeah, that is a question that I've answered in the past, that university sessions start in September, usually between September and October. That is when sessions start at universities here in the United Kingdom. A few universities start in October, but most of them would start in September. My university, the University of Edinburgh, starts in September. So it starts in September, and the right time for applying to scholarships, like I said, is a year before your program. So if you want to start a master's program in September 2024, January 2023 is not too early to start making moves, to start trying to get a passport if you have the money, to start talking to your department to give you your transcript or the student record sheet of your academic performance for all the semesters you've done. It's not late for you to start writing a note, because as I had a lot of notes that I was taking about scholarship. Sometimes it will be random. I'll be going somewhere and I'll see something. I'll quickly just remember. I just probably just write on my WhatsApp. When I come back home, I'll write it, because these are some of the things that I want to like write in my scholarship application. So that is how to do the timeline. I remember I had one mentor when I was applying for Chevening scholarship in 2020. We started meeting and having Zoom meetings as early as I think June. In June already, he had asked me to write some bullet points so that he would help me to fish out the ones that are more impressive, those ones that are more relevant to each other, put them together and apply for children. So that's how early you can start. How is life in the UK compared to Nigeria? This is a question sent by Abubakar Ibrahim. He went on to ask, hope there is no racist issue or any problems from UK citizens and fellow university colleagues. To be honest, I haven't experienced that. Yeah, so the only thing maybe different between UK life and Nigeria is, I don't know whether it's because I have been here for a while. Maybe I've started taking everything for granted, but so I would usually feel like, oh my God, like it's literally the same. Sometimes that's how I think. I'm like, but it's the same, especially when I'm at home. I'll be like, this house, especially, like it's just me, right? So, but the difference is that, number one, I mean, currency is different. Here it's the pound sterling and pence, not naira. And then here there is less informality. I think that is one of the things that are different between here and Nigeria. Here things are more or less formal. Most things are formal, and when I say everything is formal, I mean everything from interactions to businesses to almost every activity. You'll see that it is formal. For example, here if you want to buy spring onions in Hausa lawashi, right? If you want to buy lawashi, you go to your supermarket to buy lawashi. If you want to buy onions, common onions that you know that almost in every community where I am coming from, every 500 meters you will see one small table like that, people selling pepper, green pepper, tomatoes, onions, spring pepper, spinach, all those things. But here you have to walk into a supermarket to buy those things. You would hardly find those places, although there are a few shops that if you enter the shops, they will remind you, they are reminiscent of the way things are in Nigeria, but things are mostly formal in the sense that every business is registered. It's a supermarket, you have to go and buy it. Everything you want to do, you have to submit documents. If you know informal relationships, everyone that you are interacting with would usually want to stay within the limit of the context of your interaction. For example, your lecturer will want to stay as your lecturer. You might be very close to them. As in when I say close, I mean when they see you, they know that you are their student. They can even call your name. But for example, they would never have your phone number. You would never have their phone number. No such thing as they would just save your number, looking at your story, trying to judge you for some status that you've posted or something. Such things hardly happen here, and they have a very, very strong anti-harassment policy, which makes everyone to behave themselves, because you don't just bump into people like that. They don't do over familiarity, and when I say they don't do over familiarity, like I literally mean it. Like people that you think, oh my God, we've met yesterday, we've talked today, we've seen, we can talk. No. Most times when you see someone you talked yesterday, it was like, it's for yesterday. Except if they are your classmates, you develop some familiarity within your classmates, just like we do in Nigeria. For example, even within your classmate, there are some people that you're closer to. There are some people that would visit your place. You talk about your studies, about this test coming up, about this ace. But us, it's usually aces that we write. Sometimes we collaborate, but that's it. But I think it's also something that I've noted here. Students here are a bit very enthusiastic when they meet you, because like I said, every interaction wants to stay within the limit of the interaction. When you are together with your classmates and chatting, even maybe when you're attending a friend's birthday party or something, interactions would want to like stay within some kind of limits, right? But you'd understand the context when you're here. Sometimes they would just want to visit where you talk, but And I would see how they would usually want interactions to be about the concepts we're learning in class. How can you explain the issue in this African country or that African country relate so those are some of the differences that we see, which in Nigeria, I know that for me, sometimes I know if you're meeting students and you want to be talking about theories taught in class or something, people might not want you to do that too much. Even here, there are times when you do it, they know that you're doing too much, but there is relative to Nigeria, there is that higher keen interest in trying to use knowledge acquired in classroom to discuss current issues. So, and then rules here you cannot take advantage of anything here. Everything is like, you have to, if something is yours, it's yours. If it's not yours, you cannot go and take it. If you try to take it, it will show that you are trying to do something and you don't want to do that. So here the system makes you to like self-introspect, right? No one has to tell you that what you are doing is wrong. You'll know. And then there is this British culture of not saying certain things explicitly like that. They usually implicit. They want you to like think for yourself. They would usually tell you something. If it's not clear, don't take lack of clarity as yes. If it's not clear, just leave it. That is one thing here. But if you think it is something you have full conviction on, you can try it. So maybe, I don't know if this has answered your question. There are so many ways I can talk about the difference between UK and Nigeria. There are many. After all, people here speak English. In Nigeria, people speak the language of that society. So even that one is a difference. Dressing also, of course, my dressing would be a bit strange because you hardly see people like this. Although I do dress like this to go to classroom. And one thing I love about them is that you wouldn't be made to feel like, you're not supposed to dress like this because we don't dress like this here. No, nobody would even like look at you too much for you to feel like, oh my God, I'm doing something different. No, you appear in your cap and this, and people hardly would make comment like, yeah. So those are some of the difference here. And then you don't want to like stare at people, that sort of thing, because you'll see a lot of different things. Culture shock is real. Certain things are done differently here. There are certain things would make you to want to give a second look, but always resist that temptation to do that. So that is because here everyone minds their business. You want to make sure that you are not encroaching on anyone's comfort. So that is how life is here. Maybe, I hope I have said it. Two one in computer science, yes. One of my colleagues in our cohort, they studied computer engineering at one of the newly established universities in Nigeria. And she came here for the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program, and she studied. I'm answering this question. I'm answering Mohammed Badamassi's question, which asks if they can get a Mastercard scholarship by studying computer science. Yes. So my colleague studied MSc. Studied computer engineering in Nigeria and came here, although not studying MSc computer science, but they are studying a course that is related to computer science. It has to do all this coding, tech designs and whatnot. It was MSc Design Informatics. I think that was the course that they studied, and they did very well. They've in fact even gotten an opportunity to proceed to a PhD in the US. So yeah, computer science is a good one. You can get a scholarship with it, although you must not get MSc computer science because there is no such scholarship at master's level in Mastercard. This one said, I applied to MC of Edinburgh. How does the interview look like? My interview lasted 30 minutes, and we started by chit-chatting because there is this culture in Britain, chit-chat. They love it. They love to focus on the main thing, but like I said, here everything is about context. So before my interview, we had to just do small talk. If you know what small talk means, we had to do small talk just for me to get comfortable. They asked me where I was calling from, what was it like. I told them that everyone in the house then knew that I was going to do an interview because I had told even the people at the gate that anyone who would come and shout, they should tell them that, please, I'm doing something that is going to determine my future. So we had that conversation, and I told them that my workplace was a few meters away. I walked back from the office to take the interview. I couldn't do it from the office. Told them I was calling from home. And then, so once I got comfortable, we started, and I think that has helped me to get very, very comfortable. I remember I had done mock interviews, so they started by asking me what I have been doing in the past. They also asked me about my leadership, my examples of leadership. I should give them an example of why I've been able to lead. Yeah, at some point, my Facebook account was opened. This Facebook page was opened right there during the interview to see some of the claims I have made, and they saw it and they were like, okay, yes, yeah, yeah, it's actually true. It was one of the videos, so and it was seen there, so yeah, it was verified. It was only eventual, right? So those are some of the things that could happen during an interview. Yeah, but just be yourself, be relaxed. Those are some of the questions they will ask you. Literally, the interview is a way of making sure that the essay you've submitted, you are the one that wrote it. They ask you the same questions in the essay in a different way. That is what they do during the interview. So before your interview, read your essays again, not crime them, okay? Because what they want is for you to say those things you've not been able to lump up in 250 words. So give them some context around the 250 words you've used answering their questions. So read your essay, make sure that what you are saying in the interview is not deviating from what you wrote in the essay. For example, you wrote an essay targeted at African international development. You give your example of how you started an NGO on education. You also want to come to Mastercard because you want to study this course, to learn about this lecturer. And then during the interview, you come and start talking about how you are talking about something different. You don't even talk about the NGO on education at all. You are probably talking about some environmental thing that you've done in secondary school, not even talking about the recent thing. You start blabbing, you start doing social media behavior, you are not clear while you are speaking, all those things, cracking jokes that are not funny, because some people do that. If you don't prepare, sometimes you might be shocked the things that pressure could make you to do during an interview. So just be careful. Read through your essays, do your research. Like I said, I went and watched a lot of YouTube videos, and that time mostly I focused on the Mastercard Foundation, on the work that they were doing, because that one I know that it keeps on changing. It keeps on. There might be something that is trending that I need to know. So I kept myself abreast with those, and during the interview I said those things. But I tried as much to see that whatever I was saying there was written in my essay. For example, when they asked me about leadership example, I implied one of the tutorial lesson I led in my undergrad. And then I also talked about the Inclusive Governance for Development project town hall meeting I organized in Gombe State in 2018. So I had mentioned those somewhere in my essay, although not under the same question, but I had implied all those two initiatives. And when they asked me about leadership, I just talked about the tutorial, and I talked about the Inclusive Governance for Development town hall meeting, so that I'm not saying different things, because what they want is for them to connect the dots in your essay. Yes, the essay is good, it shows some promise, but let them just understand certain things that they need to really find out. Once you're able to clear their doubt, then you become a preferred candidate, and that's how you get selected. But if you go there, you don't study very well, and then and that is where maybe communication skills would help. Your writing skills have helped you to get invited for interview, but your ability to communicate, talk as human. Don't read, don't go and cram. If you cram, you are doing disservice to yourself. Just because if it's your essay, you've written it. Like now, I'm telling you literally what I wrote in my essay. I'm not opening it, but I'm telling you, but that is my essay. If you go back to the essay, that is what you will see. So that is what they want you to do during the interview. It lasted just 30 minutes during my time. That's what I can see. Someone said they've gotten an offer from the University of Birmingham and Queen Mary University of London. Well, you usually don't just go and apply for a course like that without anticipation for a scholarship, without mapping it to a scholarship that the course attracts, except if you are willing to pay by yourself. What people usually do is that sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, if you want to study a course, in the UK. Check if the course has funding. Is there any scholarship for the course? What kind of scholarship is it? Are you eligible? You will see some courses, they might say MSc Development Economics at maybe the University of Sussex, but they will say the scholarship is exclusive to Chinese students. And then it only takes off to, it waives tuition fees, but you have to pay for accommodation. That one is a scholarship. Some people might be eligible for it. But are you? If you are not, then you go and look for MSc Development Economics. In another school, okay, in another school that has a scholarship that you are eligible to apply for, that is how to choose courses. I've gotten, for example, admission to study public policy at the University of Reading. I've gotten admission to study MSc Economic Development at the University of Glasgow. I've gotten admission to study MSc Local Economic Development at the London School of Economics. I've gotten admission to study Development Economics at the University of Sussex. I've gotten admission to study MA Poverty and Development at the University of Sussex's Institute of Development Studies. All these admissions, I got them. Some of them were very, very competitive, like the one I got at the University, at the London School of Economics. Very, very competitive. A lot of people apply. Few people get chosen for the program because, you know, it's a very, very notable school, also prestigious school in London. But all those admissions that I have applied to, as many as they sound, all of them were tied to a scholarship. And in fact, all of them, all the courses were tied to at least 2 scholarships, not just one funding. For example, MA Poverty and Development, I could use it to apply for Chevening. It also attracted the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, as well as I think Commonwealth Master Scholarships, perhaps, if I'm not forgetting. The MSc Local Economic Development I've applied to, it was going to attract the Chevening Scholarship. It could attract the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. It could also attract one of their internal scholarships called 1+3 year scholarship, which if I had gotten it, I would have done 1 year plus 2 years or 3 years, and then I would get a PhD, that sort of thing. It could have attracted that. So all those things, I put them in mind before applying that. Okay, I'm applying so that if I get this, if I don't get this, I'll get this. If I don't get this, I'll get that. It also attracted the Standard Bank of Africa Chairman Scholarship. It's also a very, very good scholarship that I know a few people in my network who have gotten the scholarship. So those were some of the motivations I used to secure those admissions. I had them, but all of them were in anticipation for some funding. So you don't just apply to the scholarship except if you have the money to pay, and it's usually very, very expensive. The average cost of programs that are eligible for a Chevening scholarship in the UK, for example, is £30,000, and this is a cost to Chevening, because the cost to Chevening is quite different because of some, you know, arrangements they have with the universities. But on average, usually, I'm just using Chevening as, you know, a fact to lean on to make my claim that for because a lot of courses in the UK, a lot of them, quite significant number of courses in UK universities, master's courses, are eligible for a Chevening scholarship, and Chevening would usually say that it costs around 30,000. Although there are some courses that are way more expensive. The MPP, Master of Public Policy at the University of Oxford, if you are to pay by yourself, it costs almost £40,000. If you convert it to Naira, that is a huge amount of money. We are talking about almost 30-something million Naira to pay for that master's course at the University of Oxford. So you don't just apply for the admission without leaning on the anticipation you have for some scholarship, which have been stated on the university website. So choose courses in anticipation of a scholarship, except if you have money to pay. I don't think there is any difference, except that some scholarships. Yeah, I'm trying to answer this question. That is there any difference for those that did their program online and those that did on campus? Like I said, during our time, one of the scholars came to attend their graduation. But I know a lot of people who do programs online don't get to attend their graduation. I know one other person who recently finished a master's program on scholarship, online scholarship that they got, but they are not being funded to to attend the graduation. So I don't think they have attended the graduation, or they are going to attend the graduation. But for Mastercard, I am not sure, because I'm not an online scholar and I didn't get to ask them that question. But there is no difference. The certificate would show the same thing, only that maybe there are certain situations where you have to state that you actually took you took your studies online, especially these days with social media, public accountability, when some people might say that if you say you've studied this, we've always seen you in Nigeria, for example, when did you study this? Then that is when you can say my program was actually online, this and that. And usually the university would create a cohort, I mean a group where students who are taking the program online will get to meet each other. So you can, so if they ask you to present classmates, you can present them. And I can't remember how much the fees were, but they also pay a lot of money, so it's valid. Basically, that's what I'm saying. When a program cannot be offered online, they don't offer it online. But when they offer it online and they give you the certificate, they've certified you, and you can present it anywhere to claim every benefit that is accorded to anyone who has undergone a master's in the UK. But the only problem is that while we are in the classroom, they are offline. That is the only thing. And I don't think we've studied together. Yeah, I think their classes are delivered separately. I can't remember any time when I was in a classroom where I was taking lessons alongside virtual classmates, except when maybe someone when someone called in sick, the lecturer would send them a link so that they can join us online via Teams. But yeah, so it's you are good if you do your program online. Yeah, I've talked about how to put up a good essay, Sunny. Okay, it's a fact that racism is worldwide phenomenon. How do you come over that, and what's your advice who are willing to go there? Well, I don't have the data on racism in the UK, but I know that it's an issue that people go through elsewhere in the world. But personally, I have not experienced that. I don't have any experience to make that claim in my university, to be honest. Because of course it's a university environment, and maybe because a lot of people are highly educated, you are unlikely to see that. Maybe because I was in an international development program, in a Center of African Studies program, where even our curriculum is targeted at addressing all those issues of systemic and implicit racism, even in the way papers are written, academic papers, whatnot. So maybe people are quite conscious of that. So I didn't really experience it. And yeah, because I had colleagues from here, colleagues from elsewhere, colleagues from Northern Europe, I would be walking on the street and they would say, "Hi, Mustafa," and would stop by and talk about what's going on after school, what are you up to, that sort of thing. So yeah, but yeah, I wouldn't dismiss it if anyone makes that claim. Perhaps they know what they experience, but I haven't experienced that. Someone is saying that Zaradin Suleiman is saying that they have 5 questions. Mastercard scholarship essay, how lengthy can someone answer each question? How many page or what? There is an instruction on how many words you should use to answer. Usually it's 250 words, but check. Yeah, it's the essay question, the essay prompt would indicate the number of words you shouldn't exceed. And when they say you shouldn't exceed, don't exceed it. Don't exceed it. I remember, I think I usually wrote like 230 something, 240 something. The thing is just that don't exceed. Sometimes your system, your Microsoft Word, and maybe the system might have difference in terms of what they count as words, and that's why you would want to avoid doing 250 on the road or 249, because maybe your word part counts some signs as words while the web page doesn't. So you want to be careful not to be on the borderline. Whatever you can state in 250 words, you can say it in 240 words. I'm not saying that this is what you should do, but just to be on the safe side, because I'm just telling you based on experience. Although you see some people writing 249, it's okay. The thing is that be watching. Don't rely on the word count on your word part, By the time you finish working on your essays, editing them on Microsoft Word and everything, when you post it on the website, check. If you have exceeded, they will show minus. Some websites will not even accept the rest. They'll just leave it at 250, for example. And I haven't used the application web page in a while, since 2020, so they might have updated it, I don't know. So go back and check. There is a video that Victor Agboga did about how to use the scholarship website, so you might want to go and check that. I might be posting it later, the video, link to the video, how to operate the website. So that is to answer your question. Thank you, Rilwana Abubakar. So I think these are all the questions. If I haven't been able to answer your question, you can put it up again so that I can tackle the question. If not, I would probably say a few more things and then we would call it a day. I'm still checking. Keep the questions coming in. Okay, some people send me videos. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to. Okay. Okay, I'm just checking my DM because some people have been sending messages. AB Machina is asking that if you are from an English-speaking country, do you still need proof of an English language test? Well, there are countries that the universities in the UK have recognized as English-speaking. So if you come from those countries, then you don't have to take the English test. But if you don't come from those countries, then you have to take the English test. I know that a few scholarships that, and when they say countries that speak English, to be honest, you hardly see Nigeria put there. You hardly see Nigeria, although there is currently a movement that is agitating for universities across the world to remove English language requirement for Nigerian applicants, because English is what we are taught with throughout our education, from nursery, primary, junior secondary, senior secondary, university, to every level of education, and even in workplaces. English is the language we use for instruction. So some people are trying to use it to make that case, but some universities are still asking for students to present a proof of English language. Usually the countries that recognize as English speaking, on one of the platforms, what I have seen, not the University of Edinburgh though, but what I have seen on some platforms is that the universities, the countries that recognize as English speaking are some of the British islands, some British overseas islands, New Zealand, Australia, maybe Barbados, and a few other countries where that recognition is given to, but you hardly find Nigeria there. Thank you very much, Abubakar Umar Alaji. Seen your message. Yeah. So I think at this point, because I have said pretty much, whoever wants to learn about scholarships can just take some time and watch this video, and you would definitely learn a lot about scholarships by watching the video. Please watch the video in its entirety. The reason why I'm doing the video is so that I don't have to answer the questions again, because Facebook is going to record it and it's going to keep it on my profile for anyone who wants to watch it. There is a reason why I'm even hosting the video on Facebook rather than posting on a YouTube channel. just so it will be very, very easy for people to watch. People who don't use YouTube, for example, can use it, can watch it via Facebook. It will be easier to access. That is why. So please watch them. I remember the last time when I did the other live video on global opportunities, I had people who just saw the trailer of the video, didn't watch it, came back, were even calling me to just ask me to repeat whatever I said in the video. That is not good practice. So please, I would advise people to not do that. To apply for scholarships, usually you need to become very, very enthusiastic about reading. You have to read, you have to know how to do research. By research, I mean finding out information by yourself, so that you only ask questions that you can't find out elsewhere, because that is what research is about. Yeah, when we are conducting academic research, we first of all start looking at what other people have done in the past to read about it. By the time we feel like we've exhausted the literature, and the next questions that we have cannot be inferred from the literature, that is when we know we need to go and start using our research tools of interview and whatnot to find out new information and fill the gap in the knowledge. So yeah, the same thing applies to this kind of research on scholarships. So yeah, I think with this, I will say I've come to the end of the session. If you have any question, please, what you should do is post your question as a comment under the post I made initially about the scholarship. About the scholarship Q&A session, and I would be able to come back to the questions. God willing, I would respond, so that your inquiry would be addressed. But I also want to make a special announcement on this platform that very soon I will be launching a scholarship mentorship platform for young people in especially Northeast Nigeria, so that we can come together and expose ourselves to the practices involved in scholarship application, the nitty-gritty of scholarship application, the things that you might not know but that are essential in applying for scholarships. Some of the things that I said would take a while to talk about. We would then be talking about those on the platform, but it's not going to be on the Facebook page, so to say. We're going to have like a private group where we come and discuss, and we have members, and we put some targets to members so that they'll be able to meet it, and we'll be able to know who is really interested in the mentorship program and who is not. And this comes from the experience I've had joining other scholarship groups and scholarship platforms in the past. Mentorship helps, and that is what I want to do. I'm looking out for young people, women and men, who want to apply for scholarships, and I especially encourage women to apply to join my mentorship platform when it's up and running, so that we can achieve a more equitable social development in Nigeria, in Africa, and beyond. So yeah, just be on the lookout. I will be making the announcement very soon. And yeah, if for people who are willing to volunteer, because we are going to be organizing a couple of people, running a platform with people, sending information. So perhaps we would require some voluntary work to be done in order to ensure the smooth running of the platform. Because I'm going to be doing it pro bono. But as much as I would volunteer my time and effort and expertise to help, I would probably also be requiring the voluntary contribution of other people who want to support in kind through helping to manage the platform, sending information. Basically, program operations of the platform would perhaps require somebody to take care of that. And yeah, initial volunteers are welcome to reach out, but very soon I'm going to announce it. And initially what I want to do is to focus on the Mastercard Foundation Scholars Program at the University of Edinburgh. In fact, perhaps because of my experience, people applying for MSc African International Development at the University of Edinburgh would be given priority within this intake. But of course, we want it to be continuous. I want it to outlive me. So I hope that it will be a platform that other people applying to other scholarships would also join. People who are looking out for scholarships, not just in the UK, but in North America and maybe even the Middle East as well, can join and be able to build some capacity for applying to scholarships, because one needs to build capacity to be able to attract funding. These scholarships are quite very, very expensive. So they really want to see some capacity before they can invest in it, because scholarship is an investment and they want to make sure that there is a return on investment, return not directly to the Mastercard Foundation, but return on the society, which has been promised some kind of social development should they educate their members. So that is what scholarships are about. So yeah, thank you to everyone who has joined this session, and to all the people who have shared the post I made about this session on the various social media, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and every other social media that I've not been able to mention. I want to express my gratitude to you, to the people who have sent their questions both live and in advance. Thank you to all of you. You kept the session going. And to people who came to just cheer up, thank you to all of you also, because motivation is a good thing to have, as much as one is self-motivated, but the external motivation is also an addition to the self-motivation that people have to do something that would be of benefit to society. Yeah, I saw my good friend Enid joining. Thank you very much. Enid and I have been members of the KC mentorship platform, which has been ongoing for almost 3 years now. And it's a platform where young people across Nigeria are getting mentored to win scholarships in the UK, across Europe, in North America, and elsewhere in the world. And the turnover of people winning scholarships is quite high on that platform. The platform, of course, is established by the person I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this session. So yeah, we need more of those in order to bring the scholarship news to places where they are needed the most. And I hope that this will be the beginning of a journey that would outlive us all. Thank you to every other person that has joined, but that I haven't been able to acknowledge. I probably just missed your name, but it was not intentional. I wanted the video to just be, the live session to just be 2 hours, but because as the questions kept on pouring in and I wanted to broadly answer all the questions to make sure that I was leaving no stone unturned, I had to go on and on and on. But thank you very much for putting up with my long responses. From myself here in Edinburgh, in Scotland, it's bye for now. See you on the page. Keep posting your questions.